Thanks for joining me again for another Pixie Talks review vlog.
Pixie Talks, reviews and vlogs at Pixie Talks. Pixie Talks, reviews and vlogs at Pixie Talks.
Woo! We're almost at the end of the month now, and there are still 2 Hannibal movies left to go, so let's get to it. This weekend I watched 2002's The Red Dragon. So this is the 3rd time now that I've seen a depiction of this particular narrative, so I have an awful lot of thoughts about comparing and contrasting now since I have seen several different actors take on these characters. First of all, I have to say that I'm not the hugest fan of Edward Norton's performance of Will Graham. In both other renditions, Will Graham is portrayed as a man of few words, broody, and just a little socially awkward. Norton's Will is played pretty much more standard. He's a cop who's reluctantly drawn back into the game out of early retirement, and it's played as typically as it is forgettable. What is really interesting about both other versions of this story, Manhunter as well as the Hannibal TV series, is the prevalent themes of mental health. Will Graham's mental health greatly suffers from being involved in these investigations, and how that affects him, his job, and his family is very deeply explored. In this one, Will Graham's mental health issues are very heavily downplayed, but the mental health issues of the Red Dragon killer that he's tracking are, conversely, much more heavily focused on. And it strikes me as a little upsetting when the most interesting and beautiful thing I got out of both of the series and the Manhunter movie is that exploration of mental health in both the villains as well as the heroes. That Will Graham's struggle with mental illness is just as valid as the struggles of the killers he's trying to catch. Conversely, this movie feels more like the tired old stigma on mental illness. The killer is mentally disturbed, but downplaying Will's mental issues turns what was a very positive narrative into a rather uncomfortable one. The Red Dragon himself, however, played by Ralph Fiennes, was wonderfully well done. He was every bit as equal parts creepy and tragic as he should have been. And there's a softness to Fiennes' performance as well that just really kind of drives home the trauma and the conflicted nature of the character. His relationship with Reba is every bit as tender as it was in Manhunter, although I have to say that Emily Watson as Reba is probably my least favorite rendition of that character. Now, Hannibal Lecter feels a lot more integrated into the story here than in Manhunter as well. In Manhunter, he almost felt superfluous to the narrative, a strange addition that could have easily been left out. But in this film, he feels more essential to the plot, so I do quite appreciate that, and watching Anthony Hopkins true up the scenery is always a joy. The film is a lot flashier than Manhunter in a lot of ways. It's more fast-paced and had me gripped the entire way through, whereas Manhunter often felt a little slow. Visually, it's more stylish and just kind of pops a little bit better. It feels more like a horror film and is certainly much more scary and unsettling. That said, while Manhunter is a great example of a crime drama, Red Dragon is a mediocre example of a horror movie. Unfortunately, it's just a bit generic and forgettable in the end. And given the unfortunate handling of the subject of mental illness, I think I have to say that I prefer Manhunter. And that's it for my review of the 2002 adaptation of The Red Dragon, which almost completes my series of Hannibal reviews for October. Last one on the list will be Hannibal Rising, so be sure to come back for that. You can add me on Facebook and Twitter as well, and with that, I'll see you then. Bye!